Have you ever considered that your anxiety might actually be a powerful source of energy? And even more, that people around you aren't as focused on your every move as you might think. In today's video, we're diving into the connection between neuroscience and Buddhism to discover how anxiety and shyness can be transformed into tools for personal growth. Let me ask you, how much of your life is held back by shyness? And is the anxiety you feel, the sense that everyone's watching, really holding you down? The truth is, not only can these feelings be overcome, but they can also be turned into strengths. The key lies in learning to manage these emotions and turning fear into motivation, using simple techniques you can start applying today. Ready to dive in? So let me ask you something. How much of your self-worth is tied up in what other people think of you? Be honest. It's like, if you're constantly trying to fit into everyone's expectations, how can you ever really be you, right? That's pretty clear, but the real kicker is, how do we deal with it? Today, I want to share some insights from neuroscience and mix in a little Buddhist wisdom to help you overcome that shyness you might be feeling. Now, you might be thinking, why does this even matter? Well, here's the thing. Shyness isn't necessarily a natural or even healthy trait. It's something we can work on. Let's break it down. First off, there's introversion, which is just a personality trait. Some folks recharge by being alone, reflecting, or diving into solitary activities, while extroverts get their energy from being around others. That's all cool. But shyness? That's a different beast. Shyness is more like a wall, a self-made barrier that keeps you from taking action or expressing yourself authentically. Sound familiar? One of the best ways to break through that wall? Exposure. Yep. Good old exposure therapy. In neuroscience, it's used a lot to tackle social anxiety. You've probably heard of the spotlight effect, right? It's when you feel like everyone is watching your every move, judging you. Yeah, that's a big driver of shyness. Exposure therapy works by slowly putting yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable until you get desensitized over time. But hey, if even starting feels like a mountain to climb, don't worry. I've got more to share on that. I've got 2 strategies here for you to tackle shyness. First, exposure therapy, like I mentioned. The second, calming your body's fight or flight response. That's right, your nervous system has a lot to do with how you feel in social situations. These days, with all the constant distractions and stimulation, it's easy for your system to get overloaded, leading to that familiar anxious feeling. You know, the one that makes you freeze up or want to run for the hills when things get uncomfortable. So here's a thought experiment. What's actually driving you? What's your motivation? Neuroscience suggests that one way to figure this out is to imagine the worst-case scenario. Like, let me tell you about myself. Before diving into creating content, I was on a whole different path, studying medicine and even engineering at one point. But I kept thinking, if I don't start doing something meaningful to me, I might end up working a job I'm not passionate about just to pay the bills. And hey, nothing wrong with that for a while. I did internships, and they were part of the process. But if you're not feeling that path, then it's worth figuring out what really drives you, right? Okay, now let's take it a step further. Think about your plan B. What if things don't work out as you hope? How bad would it really be? Sit with that discomfort for a bit. And once you've processed that, flip it around and imagine your dream life. What would that look like if you could do whatever you wanted? No limits, no worries about money. What would you be doing? For me, if I had all the resources in the world, I'd focus on making content on YouTube. That's where I feel the most connected with people. Don't get me wrong, making short-form videos on Instagram has been awesome for growth, and I'm super grateful for that. But YouTube? There's something deeper about it. It's like having real conversations with my audience. Before we dive deeper into today's topic, I just want to quickly mention that I've left a list of 4 incredible books in the video description below. These are resources that have personally helped me on my journey of personal growth and overcoming anxiety, and I think they'll be super valuable for you too. So after you finish watching, make sure to check them out. They're packed with insights that tie directly into what we're discussing today. Now, if you're still stuck in the mindset that people are just waiting for you to mess up, well, welcome back to the spotlight effect. This belief that people are rooting for your failure fuels anxiety. But let's be real, people are too caught up in their own lives to be constantly watching you. When something doesn't go your way, instead of asking, "Why me?" try flipping it to "Why not me?" It's a little humbling, but life is full of challenges. Illness, setbacks, wars, we all deal with tough stuff at some point. That's just reality. The thing is, we're not the center of the universe. I know it feels like we are when we're anxious, but really, we're not. Let's be real for a second. If I'm not providing you with value in this content, you're probably just sitting there waiting to see if I say something useful, right? And that's totally fair. Your time is precious. But this perspective, focusing on what we can offer rather than being trapped in our own heads, is key to overcoming shyness. In Buddhism, we talk a lot about the impermanence of things. Nothing stays the same, and that includes the anxiety you feel in social situations. Understanding that helps us break free from the distorted thinking that holds us back. So instead of worrying about what people might think, try shifting your focus to what you can give. That's where the real freedom lies. Understanding that people aren't constantly watching our every move. Oh man, that can be so freeing, right? Once you really get that, it's like a weight lifts off, and suddenly you can focus on being more valuable to the world around you. You stop worrying so much about what others think, and that nasty spotlight effect fades away. With that in mind, I want to dive into some tools that'll help you manage this, starting with how we can calm down that fight or flight system in our brains. The one that gets all fired up when we're anxious. You know the one I'm talking about. That's your amygdala, and when it kicks in, it releases stuff like norepinephrine, which makes anxiety spike. While a little anxiety can actually give you energy, it's when it turns into disorders, like social anxiety or generalized anxiety, that it really messes with your life. And these disorders, they're becoming super common thanks to social media and this growing sense of loneliness people are feeling. Here's something kind of wild. When we're anxious, we've actually got the most energy. Think about it. Ever heard famous performers say they're nervous before hitting the stage? That's because anxiety pumps out adrenaline, norepinephrine, and even dopamine, hormones that sharpen your focus and get you hyped up. It's your brain prepping for action. Back in the day, it was all about survival, but now that system gets triggered way too often. The trick here isn't to get rid of anxiety, but to manage it, to learn how to make that rush work for you instead of against you. Imagine walking up to someone you like or heading into a job interview. Yep, that fight or flight response is going to be there. But if you can harness it, you can push through shyness and actually build confidence. This is where a mindset shift really helps. Every new experience, treat it as a chance to chip away at your shyness. There's this amazing book called The Brain That Changes Itself, and it talks about neuroplasticity. Yep, that's the brain's ability to rewire itself. Every time we act, think, or feel, we're carving out new neural pathways. So the more you practice being less worried about what others think, the more natural that becomes. Take me, for example. I've got people walking around behind me as I film this, which could be distracting. But when you learn to focus on the task at hand and not let all those external things pull your attention away, you can stay in the zone. It's all about presence. Another super important tool, NSDR, or non-sleep deep rest. It's also called Yoga Nidra, and I've talked about it before because it's one of the best science-backed ways to calm your nervous system and boost motivation. You basically lie down, close your eyes, and let your body fully relax. Just focus on releasing tension, whether it's in your face, your hands, wherever you're holding stress. You might even fall asleep, which is totally fine. Here's the cool part. Doing this can boost your dopamine levels by up to 65%. Yeah, 65%. Dopamine is that neurotransmitter that fuels motivation, especially when you're tackling tough tasks. Taking time to rest like this actually helps your brain consolidate memories and refuel your energy. If you ever feel anxiety creeping in when you lie down, that's what we call limbic friction. It's a sign you need to rest, even if sitting still makes you restless. This is why a lot of people say they can't meditate, because they hate feeling uncomfortable. But honestly, that's exactly why they need it. Now, there's more than one way to manage this internal stuff. Take the Wim Hof breathing method, for example. This breathing technique actually increases adrenaline, but in a controlled way, so you're training your body to handle stress better when it pops up unexpectedly. It's all about creating controlled stress situations so you can stay cool when the real thing hits. Speaking of internal practices, there's another thing we don't talk about enough: solitude. People often confuse being alone with being lonely, but they're not the same thing. Sure, socializing is important, but so is time spent alone, reflecting and observing what's going on inside you. These moments build resilience. And you know what else helps? Visualization. No, I'm not talking about obsessing over material goals like some life coaches might push. This is about imagining how you feel when you're calm, confident, and free to be your true self. When you picture yourself being that confident person, acting with ease, it's like you're rehearsing for real life. Just like an actor rehearses a role, you're training your brain to be how you want to be. And because of neuroplasticity, the more you do this, the more natural it becomes. It's simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. It takes consistency. But trust me, the results are totally worth it. We really need to have more conversations about mental health and well-being, don't you think? Life is hectic, and everything's moving a mile a minute. Sometimes we just need to slow down and breathe. That's why practices like these are so important. Before I wrap this up, I just want to leave you with this. Vulnerability is key. Social media gives us this filtered version of life where we only show our best selves. But real life isn't all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, look at me. I've got a sty right now, which is far from glamorous. But hey, that's life. Embracing these imperfections helps us connect with each other on a deeper level. We need to create spaces where we can open up, talk about the hard stuff, and support each other. At the end of the day, this isn't about me telling you how to live your life or acting like I've got all the answers. It's about building a community of respect, self-love, and mutual support. We're all in this together. Today, having moments like this, where we can share and connect, it's a reminder that the dreams we've been visualizing are starting to become real, little by little. And that's it for today. I hope this video helped you see how anxiety and shyness aren't just obstacles. They can actually be transformed into powerful tools for your growth. Remember, it's all about shifting your mindset, practicing those internal techniques, and embracing vulnerability. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate you sticking with me. If you found value in this, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who might need it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.